You know, when you're thinking about going out, and it doesn't matter if it's early ice or late ice, you definitely always want to be prepared. And you know what? Simple things like carrying your picks, probably one of the most important things to definitely carry. You know what? The other part is to carry a chisel with you. Always have your cell phone in a bag, a plastic bag. Wear a float suit. These are important things, you know. But the other important part is I typically always have a throw cushion with me with at least 100 foot of rope on there. Very important. If you fall in, that you can throw that to somebody. I've gone through the ice a number of times. Very lucky that I'm still here, but I know some people that aren't so fortunate. So really kind of plan ahead. That's the biggest thing. Always plan for the worst and expect the best. Hey, let's talk about a general rule as far as the amount of ice thickness that it takes to put each vehicle on. I would say for most people, you know, walking 2.5 to 4 inches is, you know, a good walking thickness for ice. Now, when you start talking about ATVs, now ATVs and UTVs, huge weight difference on that. I always kind of look at this like an ATV. I typically don't take my ATV out until I get at least a consistent 6 inches of real good solid ice. 6 inches is typically going to hold pretty much any ATV there is. No, so let's talk about UTVs. Now, when you start looking at these new UTVs, and I've got a couple, that when you look at the weight on them, they're like a mini car. So you're talking a lot of weight, and all of a sudden, you know, here's the other factor. Most of these new UTVs, you can get 6 people in them. So, you know, let's just do an average of that. So there's 1,200 pounds right there alone. You know, when you start putting, if everybody in there is around 200 pounds, and I've seen some ice fishermen, that's a pretty low number, right? There's no way that I would take a UTV out on any ice unless there's at least bare minimum of 8 inches. Now, let's start talking about vehicles. No, and it makes a big difference between having some small, you know, pickup truck versus having like a 1/2 ton and then you get into a 3/4 ton. But let's just go overall. The general rule, like for all of our clubs on Lake Winnebago, and is 12 inches consistent ice around the whole lake. If it's good ice, should hold up pretty much any kind of car, any kind of pickup truck that there's out there. So a good 12 inches is absolutely a perfect amount of ice for a vehicle. Always make sure that you have at least one window cracked open. The other thing is make sure that you have a way to be able, if you have to break the glass, you have some way to break the glass. And again, you know how these are lifesavers when you're on top of the water. When you're in that vehicle and it's filling up with water, there's a lot of pressure on that glass, and it's hard to get out of them vehicles by opening the door up. But what you need to do is just punch that glass and it'll shatter in a minute, and obviously you swim out. Hey, one of the best ways to find safe ice, obviously, is to really watch it yourself on your favorite body of water as it's freezing. You know, I'm used to fishing a lot of big water, you know, like Lake Winnebago, Butte, Poygan, all part of the Winnebago system, a lot of the Bay of Green Bay. We spend a lot of time ahead of time, like when it starts freezing, is to really watch that ice conditions. And again, by using our binoculars, watching it pretty much every day as it freezes to know where them pockets are that didn't get a chance to freeze up right away. You know what happens, a lot of times you're going to be able to tell the difference in the coloration of the ice, but all of a sudden you dump, you know what, 1/4 inch of snow, 1/2 inch of snow, a couple inches of snow on there, then you don't know where these parts are. Again, watching with your binoculars and knowing where them bad spots are extremely important. You know, a spud bar is, you know, probably one of the most utilized tools, especially for early ice, you know, because a lot of times you're spudding your way out, and I mean you're picking your way out. You know, the thing to remember about, you know, early ice, again, especially these are really crucial things to watch. You know, I typically watch the weather a lot. Wind is a huge factor. So I'm just saying this because what happens when you get a lot of wind and you get really cold conditions, you always get these pockets that don't like to freeze. What happens is that wind sits there and swirls on them pockets, and sometimes they can be 10 feet wide and sometimes they can be 200 feet wide. So having a spud bar with you and going out, especially after you get a little bit of snow on top of this ice, that some of it can be a consistent 3, 4, 5, 6 inches, and then you know that there's ice out there because you're watching this ahead of time, that there's going to be thin spots out there. So having a spud bar and spudding your way out there is crucial, again, because if you got an auger in your hand and all of a sudden you go to drill like this and you hit thin ice, you could actually go forward and fall right into that. Where a spud bar, you can actually reach out in front of you and you're poking ahead of you. That's the key to having a spud bar versus having your electric auger with you to check ice. Hey, so let's talk now about, as far as, how you guys drill holes for walleyes versus drilling holes for panfish. Obviously, most of the time when you're fishing panfish, the schools are a lot bigger. Usually the schools can be anywhere from, 25 to maybe 250 fish in a school. So a lot of times what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 2 holes real close to each other. One hole, I'm going to have some live bait to be able to keep their attention. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another hole right next to it within, let's just say a foot, foot and a half. Doesn't matter, if it's, a jig with live bait, a jig with plastics on it. I'm going to drop that down there and start working them fish. And again, try to get them fish to come up out of that school. The big thing too about when you're working fish that are in big schools is you never want to drop down into the school. There's a few situations where you will do that, but on most of the time, you're going to want to always try to stay above that school. And when I mean, especially when you start talking about clear water, a lot of times you're staying above the fish that are layered above the top fish in the water column. You're staying at least anywhere from 2 to 6 feet above them to try to get them fish to react out of that. Now let's talk about like game fish. Let's talk about walleyes. Typically when I'm fishing walleyes, I'm going to drill 1 hole for jigging, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill my other 2 holes probably at least 50 feet away from each other in the opposite direction. Walleyes are constantly moving. There's typically not as many fish in the school. And if I start getting flags out of ways, catching some fish out that way, I can maneuver myself over in that direction because that's probably the pattern that they're using. But the other part is too, again, you're jigging right here. You definitely want to cover because they never really sit in one spot real long. So you want to have your tip-ups definitely spread out away from where you're jigging. How long do I actually sit on a spot? Well, let's talk real quick about this. Is the body of water you're fishing an early bite and a late bite? And I mean by, there's a lot of bodies of water that the fish bite really, really good early in the morning, and they bite really good right before the last hour before it gets dark. That's a little bit different story as far as when I move, because your window, your time frame, or your bite window is so short. I just make sure when I'm going out on the body of water like that, that I am really on the spot, that I mark the most fish before that bite actually starts. It's really key out when you're fishing fish that aren't really reacting to any type of structure. They're just basically out there roaming. They could be working on, like the structure could be sometimes above where it's a bunch of ice shoves together, where it's darker down there, or big snow drift down there, where that light can't get through, and it's a lot darker spot, and the sediment sets up in there too. But I typically will only give a spot anywhere from 15 minutes to a half hour if I'm on the hunt just looking for fish right there. Now, when I go to make a move, it's typically within a quarter mile. When I get to my spot, I drill 1 hole, that's it. Put my Vexilar down, start looking, seeing what's there. Always stay off the bottom, at least 3 to 4 to 5 foot. It's a very clear body of water. If there's any fish down there, I'll be able to see them if they're really tight to bottom. But I want to make sure the fish from a long distance can see my baits. And here's another thing. When I'm on search mode, this is a key, and I want you guys and gals to really think about this. When you're on search mode and you're out on a body of water like that, that's just expansive, mud flats, I typically always use a really big bait, and it's typically a big spoon. I don't necessarily think I'm gonna catch the fish on that big spoon, but I use it more for an attractor. So I'll use a lot of times a 3/4 or 1 ounce spoon, and I'll sit there and rip it. Now all of a sudden I start getting some, start marking more fish, start getting fish come in, and I can't get them to react on that. I always have my other rod sitting right there ready to go. Throw it down the hole, and most of the time I can get them fish to react to that. Never give a spot more than 15 minutes to 45 minutes. It depends on how aggressive you are and how motivated you are to get on these fish. Hey, let's talk about what it takes to activate a pot of fish. There's a lot of times out on Lake Winnebago where I'll pull up on a spot and I'll start jigging, and all of a sudden I'll get some fish to start coming in, but I can't get them to go. It's always key, and I'll tell you, I tell people, everybody that comes out on a guide trip with us, please do me one favor today. Unless I tell you differently, do not go to the bottom. Do not acclimate them fish to your bait. Make sure that you try to get these fish to layer. And that is the biggest key to catching fish out on an expansive mudflat, is that so many times these fish will come in and they'll be tighter to bottom, but there's only, a handful of fish there. If you can't get them fish to stack up like this and start layering where you get bigger pods of fish, the more fish you can get into a school, the more chances you're going to get to be able to get fish to react to what you're doing as far as your cadence to catch more fish. So staying above these fish is always a key to try to get these fish to activate them. Nate. Could be a big old walleye. Oh, that is a big walleye.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. What's happening to him?
Hey. I feel like the ice is telling me I need to get back on a low-carb diet. It's kind of popping a little.
Hey, one of the big things that we're doing right now, because we know this bite is an early bite on this lake and a late bite, is about 12 o'clock right now, and we got out here early enough to get set up. So what we're going to do is just drill a flood of holes and let everything calm back down. That is the big thing too, especially when you're talking about thin ice and no snow cover. These fish can be extremely spooky, and electronics can play into a big part of that too. So we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but I'm going to go start putting some tip ups down and let's see what happens here. I've got a number 20 treble hook. I got 6-pound test line on here, and I'm going to drop her down here. So you start thinking about this, the 20 treble hook, when you look at that, there's so many different reasons why it's so effective. Basically, is number one is it lets that bait move as freely and as naturally as possible. Number two, when they come up to it and you don't have a bigger treble hook on there, that little number 20 treble hook, they can mouth that bait and mouth it and feel on it, and they're not going to feel a single thing because it's so tiny. So many people are so worried about that little treble hook not catching the fish. Well, for the very few fish that you're not going to catch where the hook might slip out on it, which very seldom happens, you know what? You're going to catch a lot more fish in the long run because you're going to get more flags. You know what? You're just going to have more opportunities, again, because of these little simple reasons. Set it off the bottom. This water here is a little bit stained, and this is a key thing too, is when you're fishing, especially stained water. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bite the tail off that minnow. And the reason is that that's going to keep that minnow moving a lot more because he's got to be able to keep his balance. And I typically just barely hook him through the dorsal right there. Hook him just like that. First one ready to rock and roll.
We missing it?
Oh man, it's been crazy. I'd be happy with them.
As soon as we got them going, they started going up.
Well, I'm going to walk back in here and I'm going to put one by that bog, and it shows sticks and stumps along this point.
Okay.
Since those other ones were relating to structure, maybe they will there too. So
my first tip up of the day. Again, we kind of got up here around noon. Know that the bite is going to be basically, again, one of them, late afternoon bites, early morning bite. But the great part was Rick and Terry were up here, and they went and fished another lake for a couple hours, and they caught a bunch of really nice perch. So tomorrow, we're going to come back and fish the early bite here. We're going to jump in the trucks, go down the road a little ways, and get in on this all-day bite, and then we'll, if we have to, we'll flip back. Hey, but I finally got a flag. You guys come on along. Oh, we got a runner here. Oh, we got something decent here, boys. This is a good fish. It's a really good fish. Oh, oh boy. Oh, I'm stuck in the ice. I got something big.
Yeah, let's see.
This is a big fish. My first flag. Hey, I've been out here for 2 hours and haven't even had a bite yet. You guys show up. It's not even 10 minutes, and right away, boom, fish. What do we got?
Big pike.
Big pike. Ooh, I'll take a big pike. Ooh, that's a nice pike. Oh, here he comes back. Yeah. Oh, that's a nice pike.
Got some shoulders on him.
Yeah, there ain't nothing wrong. Oh, I got you. Woohoo! That's a great way to start today off right there. Why do I always forget the hook remover, right?
Because you got me here.
Right. That's right. I actually would rather eat a pike than a walleye. I know you guys are probably thinking that I'm crazy, but I honestly think that pike have more of a sweeter flavor to them. And a lot of people say, well, pike are hard to clean. Well, if you clean a few of them, and there's enough videos out there, we actually have our own video on pike cleaning. They're really not that hard to clean to get all the bones out of them.
It's almost like the days when you had a Harley and you were waving to the guy on a bike. You see another warrior on the water, you just get a good feel.
First class, all the way from the people that ride them to the people that make them.
They do such a nice job with communication. They'll pick up the phone anytime. It's really almost a friendship.
You could be in any state, and when somebody with a warrior drives by you, you get that honk, that beep. You're truly part of a family, and there's nothing like it.
I hope it's a 19. Oh, it's off to the side. Oh, man. Oh, that's a big pike. He's going to run.
Yeah, he's gonna run.
Oh my God, there's gotta be like a 40 inch.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh Christ.
This way, buddy. Whoa. Oh, come on, buddy.
Jump him in there easy.
Come on, come on, come on, come on this way.
Take off and jump right out of there.
Come on. Oh, you son of a no good. Oh,
And that's on a leader.
I know. That's a no. That's 6 pound
On a
test.
filament is what I'm
6
saying. I mean,
pound,
that's a
it.
leader. That's a
A number
line
20
right
treble
there. Yeah,
hook too. A number
Oh.
20 treble hook. I'll never hold a big fish.
It's a
Hogwash.
little one. He says it's a little one.
It felt little at first. Oh, don't do that. Don't open your mouth like that to me. He's a hog. Oh, just busted off. Finally, that's okay. We got to see him punch. Oh, he didn't bust off though.
Bad knot.
No, the hook's still there.
The hook is still there. Oh, the hook was on. The hook.
Oh,
Eating.
One prong. One barb.
Oh,
Oh my God.
Oh, that was a
tiny little thing.
yeah. And I should have had him. I had all the chances in the world,
Oh, my
man.
Two times we had a hand. I should have gave the vice to him. Like,
This is the problem about getting older, right? So I just want to take credit for this one time in my life fishing with Terry and Rick. They've got their 6 boxes out. They haven't gone up one time yet. Even though they were on another lake and they got a bunch of fish, still at this spot, mine are the only ones that have gone up so far.
But when did they start going up, Larry? When we got here.
Why do you guys won't worry about the details, right? Here we go.
Come on now, get this fish up.
Oh, ooh, gotta like that, hey. Ooh, that's a nice walleye. That's a really nice. Oh, that's a nice walleye.
Let them tire out.
Yep.
That's a keeper. It's a beauty.
Got him. Woohoo! Yeah. Gotta like that one. Hold him up here. Yep, that's a good fish. You know what they say? The old saying is right. Sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield, right? Hello, my friend. It's me again. I've been waiting 54 years for this day. It's finally happening. I'm beating Rick and Terry. Hopefully I don't have to wait another 54.
you gotta let him have his day sometime. Otherwise, he'll stop inviting us back.
All right. Oh, never. Oh, another nice walleye.
Good eater.
I don't know if this one will make it. Oh, a little short.
That might be a
Just short, fine. I'm fine with that. See that? Look how good that's stuck in there. That's in there pretty good. There he goes. Another day. What'd you get? What kind? What'd you get? What'd you get them on?
That bed on a bear hook.
A bear hook? Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Holy man.
All right.
The one little
Yeah. You ain't kidding.
Betcha. I'm gonna do just that. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fun. You know, you can't beat it.
Yeah, let's go on. Ho ho.
He's rolling.
Nate. Could be a big old walleye. We're talking big walleye.
Yeah, that's a big fish.
Oh. Let him run a bunch of times.
Take her easy.
Oh, it's backwards. That is a
It's
big.
gonna be hard to get him up in that hole. So let him go if he wants.
Come on, big girl.
On the shiner with the number 20.
Trying to steal the show.
Oh, that is a big walleye.
Yeah.
Oh yeah! Whoa!
He's yours, buddy.
Jambalaya.
Nice
Beautiful.
Thank you.
What was the difference on that one? Bigger minnow, right?
Big shiner.
Big shiner. Who says you can't catch big fish? It's always about learning. I myself have got over 33 years guiding full-time for ice fishing. I'm still learning, and that's the part I love about it. I want to thank all of our military men and women for the great service they have given this country and continue to give this country, along with all of our firefighters and all of our paramedics, and no doubt all of our law enforcement agents. You know something? It is a great day to be alive, and the best part is, hey, I'm going to see you guys and gals again next week, and thanks for joining us. Got it. Hey, you guys, you know what? I hope you enjoy our tips here. Remember, it is a great day to be alive.